just yet. They chose their king, their power was met, but we don't answer to Ottawa yet. No crown gave us what we've earned, just dirt and fire and lessons learned. Now the ground it shakes, the steel it groans, and Alberta walks alone. We ride sovereign steel through fire, through frost. We ain't the last, we're the line they lost. Alberta stands, never on its knees. A nation born in the forge of the free. From the rigs to the rails, the crops to the code, we lit their streets, we bore their load. They laughed at pride, they mocked the West, but freedom don't die, it just waits for the test. The cowboys ride, the farmers rise, 5 million strong under open skies. No leash, no lie, no foreign throne. This land is steel and it stands alone. We ride sovereign steel through fire, through frost. We ain't the last, we're the line they lost. Alberta stands, never on its knees. A nation born in the forge of the free. Kill the mountain, can't drown the plain, can't burn the spirit that won't be chained. He stares down east with a calloused hand and says, this time we draw the line in the land. We ride sovereign steel through fire, through frost. We ain't the last, we're the line they lost. Alberta stands.
Whoa! It's 7-Eleven Daily Summary with Bruce Scholl. Thank you so much for being here. I am so grateful that you are joining me, and make sure to share this out there. Get some more eyeballs on this information. We have got to wake up, Canadians or Albertans or Saskatchewanites, whatever you want to say, but we got to wake them up. So get it out there, put it on your socials, send it out to your friends, your family, your grandma, your grandpa. Come on, get it out there. Let's wake them up. All right. I am grateful to be here. What an extraordinary time to be alive. And I have what I would consider a hero, a Canadian hero, one of the iconic, I guess, heroes from the Freedom Convoy. That would be Big Red and Chris Barber. I don't know if we'll get a live shot of Big Red, but we'll definitely have Chris Barber on here in a second. So I appreciate you being here. Make sure to get your family in the room and get them to watch with you. Fasten your seatbelts. We're going to have a good ride here, so make sure to fasten your seatbelts, lock the doors, and we're going to unscrew some news with Chris Barber. So I always like to start off by saying thank you to my friends, my family, and the circle of influence over the last 5 years especially have honed and shaped us into the people that we are. Unscrew the News, was born through this process and has shaped and formulated the people that we are. I have a warrior coming up that I want to bring on here. And we'll have I think, a fantastic discussion. I'm looking forward to having you on. But I also want to say thanks to local businesses that I like to support. I love to support local businesses, and one of them that I love to support is nuggetstacker.com. Right here in Calgary, you can get your gold and silver, and if you are not paying attention, silver is incredibly out of control. The price. This is definitely in relation to supply and demand. There is no supply, and there's a lot of demand in these crazy times and unstable markets. Maybe Chris and I will be talking about that in a second. Anyway, nuggetstacker.com. Go through my website, unscrewthenews.com. Go down to the link for Nugget Stacker, get a bit of a discount, and you can give them a call, 1-866-644-2121. Give them a call. Any questions that you have, they are happy to answer. All right, I'm coming to you from the heart of the battle-ready nation of Alberta. We bring you truth and optimism. Our goal is to break free from the media and the globalist mind control. It is December 28th. Can you believe that? The end of 2025. Episode number 242. I called this episode Chris Barber Saved Big Red. I'm going to start off with a bit of a video to give everyone a reminder of what we went through and what propelled Mr. Barber to the fame that he probably doesn't necessarily love. But let's just watch this stupid video. 1 moment.
The way through this pandemic is by getting everyone vaccinated. And the overwhelming majority, close to 90% of Canadians, have done exactly that. The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other, who know that following the science and stepping up to protect each other is the best way to continue to ensure our freedoms, our rights, our values as a country.
All right, I'm going to get rid of that guy and bring our hero. Thank you so much for joining me, Chris Barber from Swift Current, Saskatchewan. Thank you so much for joining me, sir. It's a pleasure.
I appreciate that. That guy's voice makes me ill, internally ill, still to this day, even though he's not our prime minister anymore. As a conservative, I'm triggered by Justin Trudeau's voice.
Well, for years I haven't been able to listen to him, and I did it especially for you. I did it especially for the viewers. I've sacrificed myself to listen to that moron, to listen to that piece of garbage, the Katy Perry fake dating, surfer from Tofino. Goodbye. And but anyway, what I wanted to do was set the story, because obviously, that's going back a number of years now, where we had to listen to this garbage, and obviously there was a clamping down of the boot of tyranny. I mean, it was not fake. It was not it was not imaginary, right, Chris?
No, it was, as a long haul trucker, I just was speaking with somebody today about this, what got you involved with things and why did you hit your threshold there? And to be honest with everyone, I was trucking long haul. I did that right through the pandemic. I trucked when the highways were empty. I stood in drive-through line. I was waiting for a cup of coffee with passenger vehicles, because obviously you couldn't take your semi through a drive-through. We weren't allowed to use restaurants. We weren't allowed to use restrooms. The great outdoors were our bathrooms. We did our part, I believe. And then, 2 years later, I was crossing the border into North Dakota, and I thought, this is ridiculous. We don't need a COVID vaccine passport to eat a meal in a restaurant. Nobody's worried about masks. Nobody's social distancing. But you come back to Canada, and it's like a totally different world of indoctrination and conditioning with society. It was enough to drive a guy mad. I seen it. A lot of others seen it. But
well, okay, so I wanted to start off, obviously, refreshing our memory and, boiling the blood a little bit so that we can remember why you've been sort of thrust to this height. I know it's not a great position to be in, but you and Tamara have put yourself into the limelight, unfortunately, because you stepped up as, and I hate to say it today, because I was a huge loyal supporter of Canada until they let us down. And I don't know if you feel that way, but I have an inkling that you might no longer have this same feeling when you say that you're Canadian. Do you want to speak into that just for a second?
Yeah, I seen the utmost of Canada during the February 2022 when you seen thousands of people standing along the highway to cheering us on, and the Canadian spirit and the patriotism was alive. And I spent so much time trucking in the United States, and I always thought, wow, do they ever hold the flag so high, and they're so patriotic. And in Canada, we're just so passive aggressive, and we don't really, we complain a lot, I guess, but we don't actually stand behind our flag. We've become so complacent. And during Convoy, I seen exactly that patriotism that I wondered about seeing, compared to the US, and it was here. But with that, I've also seen the negative side of Canada, which has made me look a little bit farther inward and see, these attacks that we've been through the last just about 5 years now have been on the backs of the elite in Ottawa and Ontario, because we embarrassed them, and they have set their sights on us and shown just how vindictive and downright ignorant they can be to anyone that dares to question their authority. And that's driven me a little bit farther away in my path of thinking, going like, it's a toxic relationship right now between Ottawa or Ontario and the West. Completely 100% toxic. They don't respect us at all here. They don't care what we think. They basically they get the cow, they get the milk from the cow and don't have to pay for it. You see that with the transfer payments every year, equalization payments, and now with the latest budget, and just of course yesterday was it Carney handing off another $2.5 billion to Ukraine, while we have Canadians that can't afford groceries, can't afford rent, are living on the brink of a nervous breakdown in this country with skyrocketing inflation and the cost of everything. How can this continue? It's like being in a bad marriage where you're physically abused by your spouse. Is it healthy to stay in that relationship when it's obviously not working? It's not, and you need to find a better path. And utmost in that too, I think we stood up for Canada in February 2022, and a lot of people in this country have had their blinders on to just how corrupt this government is. How many ethics violations did Justin Trudeau have in his reign? And I mean, we're not even there with Carney right now. He's 7 months, 8 months now, and he's done absolutely nothing for this country except hand off billions of dollars to other countries instead of looking after his own. I'm tired of it, and I'm done with it. And there's a path forward here, and I want people to have that conversation. There's a lot of town halls happening all over Saskatchewan and Alberta right now with the APP in Alberta and the SPP in Saskatchewan. I think it's time that people just go get educated on what the possibilities are, go have a conversation and go ask questions, and then form an opinion on what people think. And that's what I've done, and this is where I am at mentally right now.
So I appreciate you bringing up the Alberta Prosperity Project, the Saskatchewan. Is it the same Saskatchewan Prosperity Project? Is that
Saskatchewan Prosperity Project? Yeah, there's another group too, the Prairie Rising. They're based out of Regina. A couple of people there. Just a couple of people, a group of people there. So Saskatchewan, the Prairie Rising, and the Saskatchewan Prosperity Project are working together right now going forward, as well as there's a couple other organizations in there that are active in getting the message out on this. So very exciting.
Yeah, you spoke about. I've got a bit of an echo. Why have I got an echo? Sorry, give me 1 second here.
Yeah, good on my end.
I'm just going to check one more thing, and I don't have any echo now, so I'm going to go ahead. You had mentioned the apathetic sort of Canadian as a whole, and and I have continued to say that, this is our Achilles heel. Really, is the lack of passion or the lack of drive, and I don't think it's by I think it's by design, Chris. I think that they lulled us into this sleep, and a generation or two generations of what, things are pretty good in Canada, and there's a lot of pride around Canada is one of the best places in the world. You and I both see it when we have the trolls that jump up out of the holes, and they're attacking you for saying, hey, you know what, things aren't so great here in Canada, and we have a way out. Maybe you'd like to look at that. And of course, you're called a traitor and all the other stuff that comes out of it. But they're hurt because we're looking at, like you said, and I've said this a number of times, it's an abusive relationship. It is like being with your significant other for 120 years and them continuing to kick you when you're down.
Yep.
But then we should stand up, and then we should continue to do the same thing over and over again. No, thank you.
But more importantly, it's the conditioning of society. And I know so many neighbors of mine, good farm hands, truckers, that sit at home and watch legacy media all day long. CTV, CBC, Global playing on repeat in their houses. And because the messaging from that TV told them that, Pierre Poilievre is a bad person, we should attack him. Pierre Poilievre is not our leader. Our leader is the Liberal leaders right now. It's been that way for 10 years. Our country has never been so divided. And yet here they are using that messaging. You control the messaging, you control the narrative. Let's face it, the government's extremely good at doing that. They've almost mastered it. And the Canadian citizen, and I would say this exactly, my people in my family, neighbors of mine, ranch hands, they think that, Donald Trump's the enemy right now because the media told me that.
Right.
They don't have the mindset to look internally, to look in our own government right now. And, you go back to the 2000 era and the 2022 era, the government was implementing more and more mandates on people, crushing people's morality. They've found ways in the past to divide us east versus west. That worked, obviously. Then they divide us with the color of our skin. But during COVID, they found a new low. They divided families in their own homes. And then that's a proven fact. There's families that just celebrated Christmas last week that weren't together as a family because something the government told them to think, in the last 5 years. And that's a proven fact.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty sad. Hey, I want to go back just a bit and go back to the time, February 2022, but that time leading up to it, and we started off by trying to set the stage really for, I said that we were going to have our blood boiling so that we can get into the mind frame that we were going through. And I've talked to, so in the 2.5 years that I've been doing this, and I started this project 2.5 years ago to document the stories because of the extraordinary times that we are living through. It's so critical, I think, to capture some of these stories of the people that will be swept away if we don't document them. Anyway, I talked to so many people that I want to tell you this from my heart and from their heart, is that they were so lifted by seeing your truck and all of the other trucks driving down the road. And I know you've probably heard this a million times, but I have to get it out because it was so critical. I know I stood over an overpass waving my flag, and God, it's bothering me right now just talking about it. It was so critical. It was so critical for our humanity and for Canadians and for Albertans. Let's just say that for everybody to know that there was other people that came together because we felt so alone. Do you remember that? I mean, it was so isolating, even though there was other people around you. And you stood there and said, no more, we're going to, stand up and do this. Just talk about that for a second, if you don't mind.
Oh, there wasn't dry eyes in the cab of that truck for very long. If there was, it was probably one of the most emotional and spiritually uplifting things I think I've ever been a part of in my life. Driving down the highway and seeing, from the time we left Medicine Hat on the 24th, I believe, of January, 2022, when we picked up Tamara in Medicine Hat, my son was with me in the truck as well as my little dog Zippy. We realized right away that there was people standing on the highway, and we weren't sure if there was going to be a turnout or not for this. Had people reached a point where they'd had enough to stand, and the minute that we hit the highway out of Medicine Hat heading east, it was evident that we had traffic control at intersections leaving Medicine Hat by the Medicine Hat Police Service, and just the highways, the Bald Prairie in the middle of nowhere, where you think that there's not a farmhouse within sight, but there was people standing all along the highway for the better part of 3,500 kilometers what we traveled.
Wow.
Even in the desolate parts of Ontario, when we thought, when we get to Ontario, what is the sentiment going to be like? Are we going to be, because you're from the West and you don't know, you all you hear in the West is everybody just in the East votes Liberal, but that wasn't the case at all. We hit Ontario, and I seen some of the most support there. I seen more of the the F Trudeau flags. A lot of those are flying, but those were flying all the way across the country. It just expressed the sentiment towards being locked down for 2 years, and the amount of harm that the government and these crippling mandates did to the average, Canadian citizen. It was enough. You watched yourself, that young kid skating outside in a rink in Calgary, get thrown to the ice and arrested. I believe they even tased him, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. Wow. It was two ridiculous women who obviously felt like they had to intimidate this poor kid, and they were obviously trying to show a level of force. It was just horrific.
It was.
But you guys brought such a light and that feeling of hope. And when I talk to people, I don't know how many people that expressed it, during an interview, but I know a number of them. And there was one guy I remember, one of the first ones that I did, and he said that the convoy saved my life. Mm-hmm. And before that moment, I was considering suicide, and I really, he was in a really dark place. And it's hard to hear that, but at the same time, it's very uplifting, to know that you created such a, you were part of that, obviously. Yeah.
I have to be the first one to correct everybody when I say that. I had an idea and a social media post on January 7th where I was, in North Dakota and fed up with coming back to Canada and seeing, how our country was being transformed into just a tyrannical place. And I just had a small part of it, and I brought some of the trucking class into it, but then becoming involved with the movement and getting in touch with other people that were already working on the ground with routes, and the original idea that I was part of was slow rolling your local legislative grounds. It wasn't going all the way to Ottawa. That wasn't something we even thought about. But the January 15th cross-border travel mandates for commercial drivers made that a federal issue. And, as much as you like to think in October of 2021, you had Alberta and you had Saskatchewan saying, you know what, we're never going to do this vaccine passport nonsense. This isn't going to happen. And then it was the first ministers meeting. Trudeau flew in, and then it was the next couple days. It was like both Saskatchewan and Alberta announcing that, oh, yeah, we're taking part in this now. What did they get paid, Jason Kenney and Scott Moe?
Snake Kenney, yeah.
Yeah. What did they get? What was the bribe? What was the conversation to push them to implement something that they told Saskatchewan and Alberta residents that they weren't going to do, and all of a sudden they did it? So the federal hamstrings were being pulled right from the start, I believe, through all the mandates. The provinces definitely had an effect on things, but they were being, purse stringed from the federal side.
Incredible time. So let's fast forward. Obviously, that you have now been, and we have to say that the process is the punishment, and I'm sure that you felt that for obviously the 3 years that it's taking you to get to this stage. So do you mind just giving us the sort of, I know this is a long time and it's too crazy to just have in one interview, but the long and the short story is that our prime minister at the time was guilty of using the Emergencies Act, and not one thing happened to that guy.
No.
But you guys are raked over the coals for 3 frickin' years.
Yeah,
back and forth to Ottawa, or is it Ottawa that you had to go to, or is it? Yeah.
8 trips to Ottawa. Our trial started September 5th, 2023. Our trial finally ended October 7th, 2025 for mischief. We were both charged with 7 indictable offenses. I guess Tamara was charged with 6. I was charged with 7. I had an extra intimidation, or going against a court order was their crown jewel that they wanted to hang on me, because I said, honk your horns if the police are coming down the street to kettle, Canadian peaceful protesters on our nation's capital, just wanting to be heard by an ignorant prime minister's office and federal government, when that many people showed up. But yeah, they singled a few of us out, Tamara, myself, and others. And 8 trips to Ottawa, 50 some days in the court for mischief. We still have a $300 million lawsuit against us right now by downtown lawyer Paul Champ and his lead plaintiff Zexi Lee. Most people don't
know that person. Yeah.
The lady that worked for the government that was found by lawyers in Ottawa and city councilors to represent the class action, because they had an eye on the money that was coming in for the GoFundMe and the Give Send Go.
I'm sure she has nothing to do with the CCP. 100% she has nothing to do with CCP.
Well, she made a pretty good pawn, I can tell you that. When she entered the courtroom to testify against Tamara and I in our criminal trial, she entered the courtroom with 3 armed police guards to protect her against who? We're not sure. Both Tamara and I have never showed an ounce of aggression to anyone before in our lives. So where she felt the need to be gaslighting the judge, and it was kind of hilarious. Our lawyers got a chance to cross-examine her, and they made her look pretty foolish. It came out in trial under cross-examination that she didn't lose a day in pay, she didn't lose $1 in pay, while she worked for the government. And it's ridiculous. It's been a lot of gaslighting by the government and by certain people in the downtown core. Anybody that attended the Freedom Convoy in person seen that. And the ones that didn't see that were the ones who were too ignorant to leave the house to actually come out and witness something that needed to happen. So
that you brought it up before. We have to talk about it. But sorry, what is the right word? But the dichotomy. So the news media portrayed you guys as the racist, the white supremacist, the filthy, the swearing at people and scaring people, all of that, all that other stuff, right? I mean, but then we had all of the alt media, or whatever you want to call them, just journalists out there, and it really born the Dacey, is it Chris Dacey, the Viva Fries.
Yep.
I don't know who else, but obviously Rebel News was a big part of that.
Huge.
But they showed the real streets of Ottawa, and how. Can you talk about the streets of Ottawa and what it was like? Because I never made it there. I wish I would have, but it was, from what I understand, it is such a it's the alternate, the actual opposite of what the news media made it sound like. I mean, there wasn't bonfires in the street where you were burning books and setting small children on fire or anything like that. But that's how they portrayed you, right?
There's definitely bonfires on the streets because people, had little bonfires to keep themselves warm. But I can tell you one thing, even another story from our trial, one of the big food banks in downtown shelters testified against us that harms were done to their shelter. The truckers robbed the shelter and took the homeless food.
Wow.
anyone that was in Ottawa experienced the amount of food that was there. You walked down the street and were fed by, the countless soup kitchens. The homeless had an amazing experience for 3 weeks. They had an abundance of food and warm shelter. Anybody that was in Ottawa for that time, if you weren't a woke Muppet living in your mom's basement, scared to come out because the media told you to, you would experience life again, because that's exactly what people did after 2 years of government overreach and tyrannical rule. People learned to live again. We were hugging, we were singing, we were dancing. It was an amazing thing. I stayed in the downtown core for the full 3 weeks. I slept like a baby in one of the downtown hotel rooms. Of course, I couldn't sleep in the truck. I had my wife with me there. I had my son, and of course Zippy. So there was 4 of us, 3 humans and a little dog, which was perfect sleeping conditions for the cab of a truck. So we were lucky enough to be in a hotel room for the majority of it. The truck was in downtown Ottawa for about the first week and a half until it just got too much to watch for. Police wanted me to take it out as a sign of good faith. I did that. It's funny that they used that against me then too in the courts to say,
really,
Chris didn't do it on the day we told him to, so that truck should be taken and destroyed.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an experience unlike anything in Canada has ever experienced, and those of us that had the opportunity to be part of it, seen that and benefited from it, because it was really truly the Canadian spirit coming back.
Well, I have to also say that the part that I took in this was we went to Coots, and we did our part by going to Coots. There was a lot of, actually, because Coots was happening, and I wasn't able to go right away, and we did a bunch of donation gathering. We gathered a bunch of food and a bunch of drinks and whatever, and we had sent it all down to Coots, but then we followed a couple of days after. And that, you mentioning that there was hugging and there was dancing and there was joyous non-masking. It was such an extraordinary time. My little part of seeing Coots in that manner was just so glorious. I mean, it felt like the whole weight of the world was now off of your shoulders, and you were able to be human again. I think you said that as well, but it was an extraordinary experience for sure. There was.
If you could, my jacket would be soaked in the tears of Canadians that just wanted to have their stories told, and walking the streets in Ottawa, and you became almost like a celebrity. I don't like that term very much. I'm just a guy from Saskatchewan that just had enough and decided to stand with a bunch of amazing people. But, the people that would recognize you and then come running up to you, and then the stories that they would tell about the devastation or the hurt or the loss or the businesses, the alcoholism, the drug addictions, the family members that committed suicide, the people the elderly and the sick that died in the hospital, not being able to hold their loved ones' hands when they took their last breaths, being denied that by basically the government. And there has to be accountability and retribution at some point in the future. And right now, I haven't seen any of that. And as typical Canadian passive aggressive fashion, we just move along. We put a smile on our face, we move along. But it's eventually going to have to happen, and I want to be here when it does.
Me too. So Chris, do people say to you, "Can you not just let it go"? Do they say that to you, or do they even approach you with that? Because I mean, I would say that would be hard to bring that to you, but they say it to me. They say it to other people that, I want accountability, like you, and I think many other Canadians. Let's say 4 or 5 million of us at least. I know that somebody has to be held accountable, and I don't want it to be swept under the rug. I don't want it to just go away nice and quietly, like it was something that we should just forget about.
I believe it's our job to keep speaking up. I will continue to work and run my business and look after my family, but my priority too, going forward, is to make sure that the questions are always asked and the truth is always told. And as much as the left may come after me, and I get the people from, downtown Ottawa, or the people that, that don't even weren't there, but have some friend of theirs told them that they were there, and oh, it was horrible. Those people, I've hit my threshold with these people, and I will commonly, X, I'll apologize to everybody right now. X is like my venting tool for hitting some of these people square in the forehead and just trolling them back with mockery and humiliation, because that's what I think we're at right now, and it's a release for me. After all we've been through for the last 5 years of this government, tyranny, this overreach, this lawfare, they've done this to us, and we've stood, and we're still standing. But I think more importantly, I need my avenues for venting. So I've been hitting some of these people back pretty hard. I've been making fun of them. I've been, debating these people and having a logical conversation there's not even a chance of that happening. So why do we even want to go there? I might as well just make fun of you. I have permission from my mother to have the ability to make mum jokes. And so that is what I pride myself on. And as long as my mother gives me permission to do that, then I guess I can.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I know that you said that you're keeping yourself busy, and the one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever heard, and I know that you mentioned it as well, is that you were under house arrest because of such a bad character that you were,
Yes.
and trying to peacefully protest the crazy mandates from our insane person that I call, he's not he was never our prime minister. He was just some dude that was thrown into that just WEF a puppet, right? Anyway, so currently, how are you living? You're apparently under house arrest for these terrible acts. So what does that look like?
It's been challenging, but I mean, it could be worse. So October 7th, we were sentenced to 12 months of house arrest. And then on top of that, 6 months after that, 12 months of curfew. So I'd have to be home from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. So for the next, we're already just about 3 months into this already. So we're down a little ways, 9 more months to go of house arrest. I live on a farm. So my situation's a little bit different than Tamara. Tamara is on house arrest in a city in Medicine Hat right now. So she's confined to the four walls of her house and her yard. So with me, I'm on, basically 2,500 acres of farmland here. I've got animals in the backyard, horses, dogs, cats, a shop, barns. Today I spent the day, we had a snowstorm come through the other day, so our yard was pretty drifted in. I spent the day clearing snow, and that is what I'm allowed to do as well. In my conditions, I'm allowed to go to my parents are both in their 70s now, so as part of my conditions, I'm allowed to make sure that they're looked after too, so I can take the skid steer up and clean their yard as well. Anything I do for work, I'm allowed to work, I'm allowed to truck, I'm allowed to cross the border. As long as it's on a schedule. So I've already emailed my probation officer tonight my list of things that I need to be doing this week, which includes, I got to take a combine to Montana tomorrow, and then eventually a tractor up to Grand Prairie later in the week. I'll probably be in the truck for New Year's Eve and day, and that's fine with me. That's not the first time I've ever done that, but scheduling out everywhere you're going to be and what you're doing and where your stops are, that seems to be the biggest struggle that we've had. I probably frustrated my poor probation officer, because things change in my day. I was going to say that you probably have some things that come up that Big Red needs to go and take care of. That just crop up, right? It's just like any other business. So how does that work out? Very frustrating for at times. We're kind of working our way through it right now. If the 4 other trucks on the road, if a driver gets sick, or if a guy misses a deadline, or a guy needs some time off, or if a truck breaks down, then I have to try and improvise last minute. Mm-hmm. And that's just the struggle right now. So what I found is booking far away loads. Once I cross the border, I know that I've got a couple days of driving, and it just seems like it works better. It's a little easier on the person in the office is trying to keep track on me, and and it gets me out, and I can just run the long miles and relax and do my job, which is what I'm allowed to do. So, but it's also good too, because I get out and I get to meet the people, like I'm in the agriculture industry, hauling combine sprayers, tractors, air drills. So I am constantly visiting with the farmers and the dealers that are in the sector that most pertains to me, I guess. So that is a good thing, and that's a good thing to be out there visiting with the people that supported us so vigorously throughout those days in February 2022.
Yeah. So moving forward, are you talking about separation? Are you beating the drum as you're out there talking now, or what's your thoughts on leaving Canada?
I want to have that conversation. I want people to have that conversation. I want people to form an opinion based on the some of the statistics they may get from a town hall for the EPP or the ESPP. I think, like I said before, it's time that we have this conversation. The future of this country under this government, who is financially out of control. We've never seen deficits as high as this, and we've never seen, people in such a bad place mentally. We've never seen so much division in this country, and it has to. The questions have to come up. People need to inform themselves on what's actually going on here. The way this current government's handling our funds, it will affect our grandchildren's grandchildren, for crying out loud. It's time that we wake up to what Ottawa is doing to the future of Canada right now. We're on a one-way trip to bankruptcy. And then, typical, government practice, right? You create the problem, then you create the solution. What's the solution? We don't know yet. Oh, China will come in and take care of us? Because it sure as hell isn't going to be the government that this government and this spending. There's another play in the works right now, and it fears me. I've got children too that need to have a financial future in this country, and it scares me the way how much government has control over name something that you can do that the government doesn't give you, the permission slip to do. Basically, they control every aspect of your life, right. Even though you don't acknowledge it. But when you stop and think about it, they do.
Right. Who are you allowed to criticize, right?
That's coming, yeah, and I think it's coming in some of these new bills that are being passed right now, quietly behind the scenes, and the more backroom deals that the Liberals do with these Conservatives trying to coerce them across to the other side. It scares me, and like I said, the messaging that people are doing right now, where the media is out there trying to demonize Pierre Poilievre for a position that he's never held. When we should be looking at the policies of the current government that's been in power for the last 10 years. I still hear the name Harper from time to time in my line. And I'm like, but I'm also seeing that, so like Justin Trudeau isn't our prime minister anymore, so get over it. That's old news. Well, here's the people that have been blaming Harper for 10 years, and you're even blaming Poilievre for a job that he's never held, when we need to look internally at the prime minister that we have right now, and the one that was there previous that started all this stuff off. Because I have never seen Canada in such a divided state as I have in the last 10 years. Never.
Go with me on this for a second. Have you ever seen the movie Wonderful Life?
Oh, it's been a few years, but yes. Yeah.
Okay. So George isn't alive, right? They're going through this as George has never been alive, and the town ends up being Pottersville. And so what I'm assuming is that the demise that Carney is bringing on will eventually be called Brookland or Brookfield Land.
Yes.
Right. I mean, it's really that's what I think it's teeing it up to be. Is some other entity owns Canada, and they come in and they swoop in and they save you from your indebtedness, and they save Saskatchewan and Ontario and Quebec from our indebtedness, and BC for sure. I mean, they're sliding off into the Pacific over there.
Only the bottom portion. There's a lot of conservative in British Columbia, and unfortunately, it seems to be all in the bottom end of the province where that liberal mentality, or it's evading the big population in the city center that's controlling the basis for the whole province. And I know there's so many people in BC that don't follow that narrative. Dallas Brody's probably one of the
Oh, I
most.
love her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a trooper, and she's right there in the thick of it, and she's right in Abbotsford. That's her constituents there, which is amazing that she's got the kind of power. I hate how a conservative movement starts to grow, like what they were obviously doing, and then it basically falls apart from infighting. It seems like it's a classic conservative, base trick. If somebody sabotages it, it explodes from the inside, and away we go. I'm sick and tired of seeing it, to be honest with you. But
Okay, I have to say something about BC, and then we're going to move on. Vancouver and basically the surrounding area of Vancouver, they can all go to hell and go to the Pacific Ocean or whatever they want to do. But yes, you're right. The vast majority of BC, I think, would come along with Alberta and Saskatchewan if we wanted to separate.
and portions of Manitoba, and portions
for sure.
of Ontario. Like, is there a possibility for us just separating Canada from Ottawa? I think that would be a really good thing.
Yeah. I think that sounds like a great option. So maybe like Washington D.C. You know how Ottawa is its own little island, and it's just Ottawa, and all the cesspool can just stay in there. We'll fence them in, and it'll be they can have at each other, and they can all fight each other inside of the fence.
Our country is so firmly divided, and it's almost, when somebody takes the time to research what the symbol of Ottawa is for the city symbol, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It is basically demonic to look at it. And you wonder why our country is faced down a very dark path right now. It symbolizes it all right there. I've personally seen it. You feel it when you go to the city. There's a lot of amazing people in Ottawa, and I've met so many amazing people. It's a gorgeous city for some of the architecture, but I mean, there's like an aura to it that it's dark. And
okay, I'm bringing it up because I haven't seen this before.
Oh,
and but you
see it,
you
can't unsee it.
I'm going to bring it up right now. Is it?
That's it. What does that remind you of? If you're a
It looks
Christian,
like 666 to me.
isn't it? Yeah, demonic, right there.
Isn't
And
it?
you can't unsee that. Sorry, but it's on every manhole. It's on every light stand.
Really?
It's right there. I mean, it's right in front of your eyes, and people still can't see it. That is the future of the city of our. That's where we went.
That's our center
That's
of
our
Canada.
center.
That is the epicenter of the demonic. I don't know what you want to say, but you mentioned it, so you're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Once you
All right.
see it, you can't unsee it.
I'm going to go back to Chris Barber here. We're going to talk a little bit more because I know that we're nearly wrapping up. But I wanted to ask you, I guess, as far as your message to Albertans, Saskatchewans, anybody that doesn't identify with this Ottawa mandate, the Ottawa boot to the neck, okay, so I want to frame this out here for a second. If you don't believe me, just look at the bills that are coming into place. Like you had mentioned, we are living in a pre-communist country at this point. I have had many conversations with people that have survived Mao's Cultural Revolution, and they have told me, they said, you have to open your eyes. I've talked to people from Poland. I've talked to people from Russia. They said the stages that we are going through are leading to communism.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that you and I talk to that want to fight, that want to hold on to Canada's the best place in the world to live, without actually looking at what is happening. Anyway, I'm just trying to frame this out because we are on the precipice, I think. And again, we don't need you because you guys have done your work, but we need you to then get the next leg, the next wave of Canadians to wake up. What are your thoughts? What can you give us as far as incentives?
Well, like I said, I'm still wearing the T-shirt from the last thing that I got involved with like that. It was an epic time in Canadian history. I've heard talk about going back to Ottawa on a convoy. I think every 6 months now. There's another one planned for the first part of 2026, and I can tell you that isn't going to solve anything. Going back to Ottawa, those are different circumstances. Ottawa is the problem. Getting involved with your local community, becoming part of your local community, whether it be your city councillor, your school boards, your rural municipality, get involved and change things from within. I think open your eyes and don't be afraid to stand. There was a certain amount of us that stood in February 2022, and the government has come after us with the most ill of intent. I mean, you look at what they've done to us in the last number of years, trying to get 8 years in federal prison for mischief for myself and 7 years for Tamara. And then after the fact, they come after my livelihood. They tie me up in court with another, countless thousands of dollars in legal fees to trying to seize and destroy, my livelihood, the truck that I've owned for 22 years, Big Red. The Crown has acted in a malicious, disgusting, vindictive way for the last, 4 or 5 years. And I am stubborn enough to know that when I feel like I'm right, that I'm right. And I will go to the ends of the earth to make sure that I continue to stand. So the only thing that will take me down would probably be some sort of violence, because I am not giving up this fight. They've picked it with, us. They backed Canadians into a corner during COVID. They backed us into a corner, and they pushed us to the brink of us finally having to stand up and say we'd had enough. And they continue to do that now. But more importantly, they do that to try and send a message to others don't you dare stand up. This is what we'll do to you. But I'll tell you what, when more of us decide that we have the balls to stand and say enough, we win. It's the old ants. Remember the old ants cartoon from back in the day?
Yeah.
Like when one of them, when they all stand, the cards fall. And I think people need to wake up to the reality that it's easier than we think. We just have to say no. And you can't be scared. And trust me, there's been many times in the last 4 or 5 years where, I've spent a lot of sleepless nights wondering what was going to happen. I've made 50 some years of my life never being in a jail cell, never being in a police car, except for a ride along with, and I've experienced that in the last 5 years. I'm a convicted criminal now for mischief. And I am, people ask me too a lot, was it worth it? Would you do it again? If I was to do it again, I'd choose my words a little differently on social media, I'm sure, but it was worth it because we saved a lot of lives. I've met so many people across this country that talk about a deep, dark state where, they, like you said before, they were on the brink of ending it. And when those trucks fired up, they thought about it, and we gave them something to live for. And even if we saved one life, and I know we saved countless lives, but even if we saved one life, then it was worth it. And yes.
Fantastic. You're absolutely right. One other thing I want to remind everybody, and you and I can both enjoy the moment, but not only did you inspire Canada and Canadians and people in dark places, but you also inspired the world.
Yes.
Not you specifically, but you and all of the other truckers, everybody that rolled across Canada, that put your livelihood, put your family on the line. There were so many inspirational messages from around the world that the Canadian truckers changed their lives, and I would just wanted to make sure that you heard it from me and from our viewers that we are honored to have you in the Unscrew the News
thank you
podcast today, and it really I don't know, it touches me. I'm just so honored. Chris, before we head off, is there anything that we can do for you? I know that you and your family have obviously been through a lot. I want to show obviously your X profile here. You've got Big Red merch on here.
Yes.
And is that one way that we can help out?
There's many ways. Yeah, bigredmerch.ca. We've had some people, an amazing artist in Regina, Saskatchewan, Jerome Waldner, created a cartoon version of Big Red, and we've been able to put that on print and sell a hoodie or sell a sticker. Behind me, my shoulder here, you'll see the small fringe minority sticker.
Oh yeah.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau labeled this as a small fringe minority, and we took it like the classic Canadians, and we own that. So yeah, bigredmerch.ca. The other one that I could amazing organization is the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, the jccf.ca. They have been standing behind us from day one. They flew a team of lawyers out to help us out, and they're still standing with us to this day, helping us with our legal battles going forward with the $300 million lawsuit, the truck forfeiture, our criminal trials. John Carpe's got an amazing staff of people out there. They take donations from average Canadians, and they fight constitutional issues around this country. So the Justice Center's been involved with many government overreach, many constitutional issue fights. So I encourage everyone to check that out, hit the donate button, and give them a little bit of support there, because they definitely deserve it.
Okay, I'm just going through some of your merch. Oh, there's Zippy. Nice.
I'm surprised he hasn't barked at all yet. Usually, anytime I'm in an interview, he's usually yapping at the top of the stairs. So.
Okay, well, everybody, I've got this here. I'll make sure to have the link as well, and I've also shown back to this one here, your X profile, and I just want to say thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I hope that we can maybe catch up and talk about Saskatchewan independence in the near future, because I think that's our next mission, right?
We're working on it. There's been some pretty good outreach right now from the town halls that are happening around Saskatchewan. I encourage everybody to, Facebook is probably the best place, Saskatchewan Prosperity Project, and go check it out. Just go ask some questions, go learn a little bit and educate yourself on the possibilities and just where this country's headed if we continue down this path.
I'm just going to pull it up here quickly. Prosperity Project here. I just want to show this for everybody. Pulling it up. Stand by here, Chris. Mm-hmm. All right. There we are.
There we are.
So skprosperityproject.ca, and there it is. If you want to look it up, and you can find it. I've also included the APP, the Alberta Prosperity Project, and we'll continue to push that forward. And again, I want to say thank you so much for joining me, and enjoy your night with your family.
Thank you.
And God bless. Happy New Year, and good luck with the next round of driving that you have to do, the next round of business travel that you have to complete.
I think I have a feeling that 2026 is going to be a turnaround in reconciliation, and we're going to start living a little bit more of the truths that we've been speaking the last number of years. So it's going to be a year of reckoning for the ones that did people wrong during those outrageous mandates, and I can't wait.
I pray that you are correct, sir. I pray that you are correct, and we will hold them accountable. And Chris, I'm just going to say goodbye to the audience, if you don't mind sticking around for 10 seconds so we can talk after. But God bless you and your family, and stay warm in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the support.
All right, everyone, if you're still watching, make sure to share this out, get more eyeballs on this information. We appreciate Chris being here. I want to also tell you that I am still planning. I've got a book from Nadine Wellwood, and it's called Alberta Rising, and I'm giving it away, signed copy. So just make sure to send out my links and get more people to join me on unscrewthenews.com. And you can find it on X as well. So thank you very much for being here. God bless you all. Let's keep your head on a swivel. Let's stay sane together. And this is Bruce, and I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching Unscrew the News. I appreciate your participation in freedom in Canada. Share this information and help others to wake up. God bless.